Welcome back to the Dune Hippie channel. I got a bunch of different stuff going on here. New vehicles in the shop. CNC machines on, running parts. I'm gonna try to do some sketchy saw cutting on that aluminum bar there to make some more of these things. My Dana 44 hubcap kits. I got one individual one left. So thank you for everybody that has bought those and sold me out of my first run of those. That's what we got going on right now. I'm running all the backing plates, running them. I cut these out on my plasma table, just the blank, and then I run them, I sand them like this, and then throw them in the vise in here and drill out the holes, and then I hand tap them. This machine doesn't have the ability to rigid tap, and I don't have any floating holders yet, so gotta hand tap those, but that's part of being a small shop starting from nothing and having to buy all the stuff. So you use what you got. I got 1/4 taps, that's what those get tapped, and I'll just do all those by hand. In the meantime, I'm also working on a set of knuckles. I've started working on this build. This is the 2014 Chevy, getting a set of I-beams just like the last Chevy, so gonna be doing a cage in this as well. And that's kind of where that's going, is I'm working on actually getting the spindles and the beams all built out first, and then we'll get those hung on there, and then I'll get started on some cage work stuff. So the Green Ranger, you've probably seen this on my channel before. First came to me because I had some issues with the shock setup. You probably remember this clip. Yeah, now it's much better now. Other than that, this thing's got a fresh motor from then. It's got it from Baker Engineering. They pulled the motor out and rebuilt it. And one of the things we're going to be working on is, I don't know if I can get it to do it with just one hand, but it's making a clunking noise back here. It's only single shear on a lot of the tabs, so it's making some clunking noises. Some of the round holes are now ovals. So we're going to be adding weld washers to a lot of like link holes, shock holes, stuff like that. And then potentially we're still working on maybe be doing something with these beams down here. Got to do some math and looking into some things yet, but you can see these beams got some positive camber to them. They're ball joint style, some single shear stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. It's also in here because I'm going to be working on right now. This is a one-piece hood clip, and it's on with pins, and it's a really it's hard to get lined up and get it on and off. So I'm gonna be building a frame for this hood and making it pivot up, so that way it can be opened up with by one person. So that's kind of what we got going on the channel now. It's been I-beam Chevy for the last several months, getting that first kit designed, fully built, and out of the shop. That was a big deal right at the end of the summer here, right at the end of the season. Was able to get some a couple laps in the dunes, not very many, but we did get it in the dunes. And now next summer, we're all set up with that thing to be doing more stuff. So we'll have to wait for next season to see more of the first I-beam Chevy. And for now, that's kind of the rundown of different stuff I will be doing over this winter. I do have a bunch of plans for my C10. I've been doing some stuff with my C10, and I'm gonna get that stuff ready to bring to the channel eventually. But that is something I'm very excited about this winter too, is get the C10 resurrected, and yeah, we'll go over that in a while. So for now, I'm gonna get back to machining some little parts, and I'll kind of bring you along. Yeah, I got some manufacturing stuff going on. I got 3 I-beam kits fully cut out right now. This is a bunch of spindle parts, spindle upright parts. So I'm kind of, this is how my manufacturing station. I sand stuff down here. Back to this, and then yeah, we're gonna, I got one of these metal blades, and we're gonna put it in my chop saw, and we're gonna see if we can cut this aluminum bar up. So we'll do that after I run out these last couple parts in here. Oh yeah, I just still think it's pretty cool to have a three-phase CNC machine in my little tiny shop up by the side of my house. I got all my blanks cut on my saw setup. After doing it, not optimal. Wasn't the greatest setup. I think looking back on it, first time I did these, I just ordered material. It was a little bit extra, but I had it just cut to length, like this, a plug, and they just showed up. And this time I was able to, if you buy a chunk of bar, it's cheaper to buy the bar. But for the time I put into sawing, and now I have this mess, I'm still working on sweeping it up. But that wasn't worth it for me. Until I'm able to get like a horizontal bandsaw and set something up with like an automated one that can run, it's probably not worth it for me to buy bar stock and use that. I am still going to use that blade for cutting tube because I can get straight cuts with it. So anyways, I'm setting up a slug. I've already got some tools in there, and I was actually in the middle of changing my inserts over, and then I remembered I haven't filmed anything. So this is my face mill, getting ready, this all set up. It had steel inserts in it from what I was doing last, so that's what the steel inserts look like. They're a different material, and they have a different coating on them. And since these are made out of aluminum, I am switching my inserts over to these ones, and I'm putting those in so I can run my aluminum stuff. So pop that guy in there. There's the seat, and then that guy sits in there like that, and then there's a little itty-bitty screw. Put that in. Let me tighten her up. You can see I've used these inserts before. These inserts have a total of 6 available cutting sides because you can flip them around and use all the different sides. So when I take them out, I mark them with a Sharpie so I can see what I was using last time. But that's my face mill, getting that tool set up, swapping those out. I don't know if that's interesting to anyone, but it's kind of cool to me. And then got my tools set up in there, my heights. I actually fired it up and the steel inserts were in there, and that's what it looks like if you run steel inserts on aluminum. They're much more duller finish. The aluminum inserts are much sharper, and it was actually like pulling material. So I'll drop down and face those off, fire the program back up. Maybe I can show those much sharper. Like these would slice your finger if you rub your hand on them, where these, you could run your finger on them quite a bit. They have a little bit more of a radius on there. So anyways, that's what it looks like if you run steel inserts on your aluminum parts. I just finished finding my X and Y, setting my coordinates. So part of the machining, you got your part I have over here. This is my solid model that I have drawn. So you can see that's the part we're going to be making right now. We're running off one. So you can see there, these little lines are all my toolpath lines. That's what we have set up right there. That little X, Y, and Z is the coordinates. That's what I'm talking about. So everything is programmed off of that point, which I set right there in the machine off the center of there. And then once you're over on the machine, to be able to find that, you have a tool like this called an edge finder. You spin this thing, and then you find the edges, and when you touch it to the edge, it spins wobbly, and then it will break off to the side when you find an edge. So I'm gonna go ahead and store the location, and then I'll fire it back up and show you, because I already found it. So these are my numbers that's the center of this slug right here. So now I need to store that in the machine. Go, let's see, to my set fixture. And then there's a spot. I'm using fixture offset 1. I think this machine has 9 total, but I'm using offset 1. And I need to store my location 3. And then for this machine, store location by pressing the key that you want. So I want to store the x-axis, X, which it just stored. So there's my number that the machine is right there, and then I just stored that one. So you can see the Y is slightly different, 3.1525. That's that one. Once I hit this Y down here, that will change. There we go. So now that's stored, I'll go back to my main screen, and actually my jog screen, and I can fire up my spindle like that. Now that thing is spinning, and then what I'll do is manually move this thing. So this would be trying to find the center of the on the y-axis, and then using these edges would be trying to find the center on the x-axis. So you do that. You come down here like so, switch it, and then all I'm doing is I'm turning these knobs to the different for movement. So now I'm on Y, and then I start bringing this thing in, and you see how wobbly and moving it is. And as I get closer, it starts running true, and then I'm going one click at a time until it breaks like that. And then once it breaks, because these things will magnetize if you leave them touching too long. This is aluminum, so it probably won't. But if it's steel, it'll magnetize. So I roll it up in Z right away, but that Y number would now be my coordinates. So the way the Fadals work is 0 is off the center of the table. So you can see these coordinates. I'm negative 5.86 in position from the center of the table, negative 5, whatever that is, 5.86. So then in the Y, I'm 5 inches up from the 0 center of Y in the positive direction. But that's to find that front edge. And then I would rotate down in Y, and then, wow. And what I do, because this machine is so old, newer machines, you can store these numbers, or I've had machines with like probes when I used to work for other companies, where you just set a little cycle and it comes in and probes it. But for what I have here, this is very old school and very cheap. So it costs a little more work. This machine can't store any of the numbers. So what I do is I just always keep a pad here, and then this is my math here for when I do Y. So like I did Y, you can see the number there. So I was within, my phone's freaking out. Okay, I was within 5/10 finding that same, or maybe I just rounded up from the last time, I don't really know. But that was my Y number, and then this 1.299 was this edge. Divide that number, or well, subtract this number from that, divide that number, which was that, add that back into that, scroll it back onto the screen, and then those were the stored locations that I just showed you. Makes sense, right? first op is set up and I've been running out some parts. This is kind of what I got set up in here. I've got this 4-jaw chuck. It's got independent movable jaws on all of them, so I use these front to and loosen them and have some parallels stacked up here, but grab it onto that chunk there. And then the way the program is set up with the USB and this CalMotion board, it just runs, if you're running multiple parts, as you're loading a new part in there, which I have there. I took the last one out, just loaded that in there. It's sitting here waiting, and all you got to do is hit the cycle start button again, and it restarts the program. So go and grab my face mill and start running another one. All right, come on, slow. Check out my rear end. Got my C10 9-inch out of the truck finally, and I've got it now over in my shop where it's much more heated, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of work on this. Main thing I'm going to be doing on this rear end is touching up these welds, and then also the upper link mounts there. So this housing is the very first thing I started building on my C10 10 years ago. And I machined these tabs up at work. I machined those probably like 11 years ago. I had those for a little while. If you need a set, if you want a set to have just like mine and build your own, hit me up, Dune Hippie Machine, because we got them in stock, ready to ship. Got the little back tabs for them too. But anyways, shameless plug on my own channel. This rear end, it's yeah, if you look at it, the welds are nothing super impressive. I did this with a 110 volt MIG gun. I think it was like 140 amps capable. And yeah, that's what I started building this truck with. So all of these welds were done with that. They've all held. They've never failed me, but they don't look that great compared to, that's speaking now. I have 10 years experience from when I did that, and I'm also TIG welding everything now. and that's stuff I'm doing now. So my standard has just increased over the years from a different time point. When I first built this, I was just pumped that I actually was able to pull this off. Building this housing here was pretty much what gave me the confidence to think I could build then the whole rest of my truck. So I built that first, and then I got it done, and I went, yeah, I could do the rest of the truck. That's not that bad. So here we are 10 years later, and I just want to make it look a little nicer. So I'm actually going to strip the paint the rest of the way off. Luckily, the whole front side is all sandblasted for me, thanks to Silver Lake Sand Dunes. And I just got to get the paint off the backside. And I'm going to clean these bump pads up. This thing's pretty dented in. There was no support underneath of it. So I'll probably cut those off. I'm going to redo something. I'm thinking about putting a dual caliper bracket on these, because I have enough brake calipers to do a dual setup, and I also have a handbrake lever for this thing. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm kind of thinking putting cutting these brackets off, making some new ones with dual caliper setup. Yeah, re-weld, do some passes over these, do another cover pass with some TIG, make those look a little nicer now that we can. And yeah, then everything else. The reason I'm going to be doing these upper links is this hole. It's hard to maybe tell, but it's a little ovaled out. And actually, you know what? Actually they all are. They all really are a little ovaled out. Just from 6 years running in the dunes, long seasons, and sometimes I know I've had a bolt break up there. That's another thing I'll get into as I'm doing the truck. Every bolt on the truck is getting replaced this year. The sixth season that I was running it, I had 2 different bolts actually snap, and grade 8 hardware, but 6 years on all that stuff, and things finally were, holes were ovaling out a little bit. Bolt shanks were getting a little ground down, and once you get that little bit of slop and knock, and you take hard hits, then you can actually get enough shear force to then shear those and make them fail. So swapping out all the bolts is another thing I'll be doing. When I took this out, I did go ahead and pull my rear link suspension setup. I got my trailing arms there, and then my upper links there. Let's see if we get down here to these heims. My trailing arm heims were pretty lopped out. There's a lot of play in them. You can see looseness there. My upper links, those were still actually not bad. Those are runnable, but one of those things, I took the whole season off last year with my truck. A lot to do with just having a business and having my first kid being born, going through just life changes, and I knew I didn't have the time to put into running my C10 at the level that I like to run it. So, and then also there's the things that I'm getting into now. All of this stuff was also, this truck's just been run hard for 6 years, and it really needs a lot of maintenance. These things, if you run them and do stuff like this with them all the time, they don't last forever. This stuff is all wearable items, even down to bolts. So I'm kind of at a point, this truck, this will probably be about, in 6 seasons. This will be, I think, the 3rd time I've torn the truck entirely down to the chassis to not replace everything. In years past, I would just tear it down and then only replace certain things as I found them that needed. But this time, I'm going to be tearing it down, and I'm replacing all the heims, all the bolts. We're going to be repainting a bunch of the chassis. And then I'm putting a set of my beams on the truck. So it essentially is going to be, besides the chassis, a completely brand new truck all over again. And so I'm pretty pumped and excited about that to show you what I turned that into. The next thing I did, I didn't film any of this, but this is going to be my new motor. Another reason I didn't get my C10 out last year is the motor in it had a rod knock from the last time I drove it. And so I needed to put a new motor in it, and I'm going to build another one. I've only ever built motors that go in my truck, so 4.8 liters. That's what I've always ran. This is a 5.3 liter. And I'll make more videos once we get into this. I just mainly, this weekend, my other shop is not heated. So I got a bunch of work done over there because we had a nice little heat wave here in Michigan. And I got that motor on a stand and I stripped the heads off, kind of mainly just really wanted it. This is just a marketplace motor that I got, and I pulled the cap. I pulled the oil pan and pulled the cap on one of the rods, checked the bearings out, checked the cylinder walls out, and wanted to see what kind of condition this thing was in, and it looks good to go. So bottom end all looks good. We're going to use a 5.3 bottom end, but me being a 4.8 guy, I have a cam and some heads and some different stuff we're going to slap on this thing. But I think I'm going to do I have so many of them. I think I have 3 4.8s that are now blown up. But between them, I have all the leftover parts. I'm going to find 8 good pistons and put 8 4.8 liter flat top pistons in this 5.3 with my cam and my head set up. And we'll see what that thing will do. So hoping to make a little more horsepower in the C10 with the whole new setup as well. So when yeah, it really is going to be a completely new truck. So I'm rebuilding the whole thing. Might even get to the point, it's one of those things. I have shoved the snowball off the mountain, and here we go. Because now I've gotten the links off, and they're sitting in the corner. I've been staring at them 2 days, and I'm already redesigning brand new links on CAD, because when I made these are 100% made with a 4.5 inch grinding wheel and cutoff wheels. All the plate that you see on the sides, all of that was traced out onto big sheets, and I cut it out with cutoff wheels. And then welded it up and ended up smoothing it all back down. But I have way too many hours into building those, and they've been on the truck for 6 years. But same, just like everything else, I could make up some way cooler ones now. So kind of thinking, hey, maybe why not? I have the steel, I have the tools. It's just time and money, and that's free. So yeah. Oh, another thing I did. Oh, the furnace just kicked on. Another thing I did is I've done some cleaning around in here. So I'm always looking to perfect my setup in my shop. You know, building a shop, you're slowly adding tools, and just as you work on projects, kind of in your mind, you're always like, man, I could move this over here. This should be over here. This would save time if I'm doing it this way. And so now I've kind of done, I took a couple days and cleaned and moved a bunch of my stuff around. Now I have all my metal prep and fab station over here. I'm waiting on a couple different organizing stuff for my wall up there. But starting to get like tools up on the wall, getting stuff that has like a permanent home. My whole welding station set up here. My little lathe area set up. And then with pulling this motor over here, I'm going to be setting up an area. I have another bench that I need to figure out and move some stuff around that I'm going to be setting up to have for a little like engine assembly area for building that motor up. So those are kind of the things I got, new things going on, I guess, because that's kind of, this whole video is really, I guess, just encompassing a bunch of different stuff I'll be working on over this next couple months, this winter, what I call like the off season for here in Michigan. And I'm kind of working on all of these different projects simultaneously. So we get snowed in here, and yeah, it's nice to have a bunch of different stuff that I can kind of bounce around on and work on all sorts of things. So I got some projects for my truck in here. We got some customer stuff. This thing, the TE Designs cage, is ordered and is being shipped currently. So I have a cage on the way for this. Still progressing and working on prepping parts. Those are the knuckles. This thing, since I made the first part of this video, I know I was talking about doing beams. We are doing the go ahead on a new set of beams on this thing. So this truck is going to be sporting a new set of Dune Hippie machine beams next year. Along with the other work that I've already talked about on here. So I'm pretty pumped about that. The kit is already cut out. I'm actually working on, there's one of the knuckles there already getting assembled. And then the rest, there's another knuckle sitting right there. It's just needs put together. And then there's some more different stuff in there. So actually that's the C10 knuckles right there. So all sorts of different stuff. Another actual project, well, another one.
Another one. Another one. Another one.
this project is what I'm working on right now. And then we're gonna set up the camera and probably end a little bit of this video with this. This is the project I'm currently working on. A set of swingers. I'm actually doing 2 of them. I have 2 orders. For the very first thing I ever did out of this shop was the swinging on wheels over at the Bucket Bros Jeep. If you haven't seen that thing, it's a gnarly XJ with an LS swap, TTB suspension, and then Dune Hippie machine dual swing set steering on it. I've sold a couple of the steering since he's built that Jeep, and now there's 2 other guys that are building that same exact setup. They've got the jacks, cross member, everything is the exact same setup, and they've hit me up because they need a set of swingers for the steering. So that is what I'm working on here. I've got here's some plates prepped with some overlays welded on them, ready for one of the swingers. This is a tube that I've machined up, machined it to a dimension, and then just sanded it. But I got 3 more of those over there on the lathe, so I got to set up, cut, and do those other 3. These are my welding slugs. I'll put these in the end there when I go to weld this stuff all up. But this is the main base of the swinger, and then these tabs will go on there like so. And then I'll have to get, I got stuff for spacing. I'll set my spacing in there, and then that stuff will get welded up like that. And then these help keep my tube from distorting on the end. And then once that's all done, I'll end up having to machine a set of Delrin bushings, something that looks like that. That'll go in there and get sold with them. So get them mounted on the truck. So